Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins HD, fellow treasure hunters and coin collectors. Today, we're taking a closer look at one of the most iconic coins in American history, a coin that's been resting quietly in drawers, jars, and collections for decades. It's small, it's copper-colored, and it might just be worth more than most people ever imagine. I'm talking about the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin with a story far deeper than its tiny size suggests. That if you think pennies aren't worth your attention, think again. Because in the right condition, with the right mint mark, and especially if it carries a rare error, this humble 1-cent piece could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Yes, a single penny. The kind you might have tossed into a fountain or ignored on the sidewalk. Today, we'll dive into what makes the 1944 wheat penny so special, what you should be looking for, and how one of these coins shocked the numismatic world with a stunning price tag. Let's begin with a little history. The 1944 Lincoln wheat penny came out during a time of global upheaval. The world was deep in the throes of World War II. Resources were being rationed. Materials were scarce. And even the U.S. Mint had to adapt to meet the demands of a country at war. In 1943, just 1 year before our star coin was minted, the U.S. Mint made an unprecedented move. To save copper for military use, they produced pennies using zinc-coated steel. These 1943 steel cents had a silvery color and a much lighter weight, and they're still popular among collectors today. But the change wasn't perfect. Steel pennies rusted easily and often got mistaken for dimes. So in 1944, the mint returned to using copper, specifically recycled shell casings from battlefields. Yes, you heard that right, the 1944 penny was made from ammunition shell brass, giving it the nickname, shell case cent. This alone makes the 1944 penny historically significant. It's not just currency, it's a coin with wartime DNA, a piece of the battlefield that ended up in your pocket. Most of the 1944 pennies were made from this shell case bronze composition, and hundreds of millions were produced across multiple U.S. mint facilities. You'll find three main versions of the 1944 wheat penny: those minted in Philadelphia with no mint mark, those from Denver with a D, and those from San Francisco carrying an S mint mark just below the date. But even though hundreds of millions were made, not all 1944 pennies are equal. Some are incredibly rare, and incredibly valuable. It all depends on a few key factors: the mint mark, the condition, and whether the coin has any unusual minting errors. Let's start with condition. Like with any collectible coin, condition plays a major role in value. A heavily circulated 1944 penny that's scratched, worn down, or corroded might only be worth a few cents. But an uncirculated or high-grade coin, especially one with crisp lines, strong features, and full luster, can be worth much more. These are the kinds of coins collectors dream about, the ones that have been hidden away in coin rolls or collections for decades, untouched and forgotten. But there's something else that can take a 1944 penny from interesting to incredibly valuable, and that's mint errors. Some 1944 wheat pennies were mistakenly struck on steel planchets left over from 1943. That's right, instead of being copper-colored, they appear silver or gray, just like the previous year's steel cents. These 1944 steel pennies are among the rarest Lincoln cents in existence, and if you ever find one, get ready for an auction war. Other error varieties include off-center strikes, double die obverse where the lettering or image is duplicated slightly, and even repunched mint marks. Each of these errors adds uniqueness and value to the coin. The rarer the error, and the better the condition, the higher the price. Then we come to the mint marks themselves. While Philadelphia made the most 1944 pennies, the San Francisco and Denver issues tend to be a bit scarcer in higher grades. And if you find a coin from one of those mints with a known error or anomaly, it can increase its worth dramatically. And let's not overlook the design. The obverse features the famous side profile of Abraham Lincoln, a design by Victor D. Brenner that's remained a constant on U.S. pennies for over a century. The reverse showcases two wheat stalks on either side of the words, 1 cent, hence the nickname, wheat penny. This classic design is beloved by collectors and historians alike, and it adds to the charm and collectability of these older cents. Collectors around the world continue to search tirelessly for the best examples of 1944 wheat pennies. Auctions regularly feature high-grade coins that generate incredible bidding excitement, and coin grading companies like PCGS and NGC have helped identify and certify some of the rarest examples in existence. These certified coins often go on to sell for astonishing sums, especially if they combine rarity, historical context, minting errors, and pristine condition. So, how much can one of these seemingly ordinary 1944 Lincoln wheat pennies actually be worth? Well, imagine this: you're going through an old jar of coins. You spot a reddish-brown penny with the date 1944 and a small S below it. You take a closer look. The detail is razor-sharp. The color glows. Maybe you even notice something a little strange about the strike or the metal. You send it off to be graded, and it comes back as an uncirculated specimen, high mint state, with an ultra-rare wartime error, and then it happens. The bids start rolling in. Coin dealers and collectors from around the world compete to own this unique slice of American history, and that penny, that 1-cent coin, sells for an incredible $60,000. Yes, you heard that right, $60,000. For a single penny that's been sitting unnoticed for decades. So, the next time you come across an old coin collection, or you're sifting through pocket change, take a closer look at those wheat pennies, especially the ones from 1944. Because your next big find might not be in a gold bar or a hidden vault. It might be a tiny copper coin, carrying the story of a world at war, and worth more than you ever imagined. Today, we're about to uncover one of the most fascinating stories behind a small copper coin that might be sitting unnoticed in someone's old piggy bank, pocket, or attic. We're talking about a coin that has not only historical importance but also a potential to be worth a life-changing sum of money. Yes, we are diving into the incredible world of the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny. Now, at first glance, this little 1-cent coin might seem ordinary, just another old penny with Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front. But don't be fooled. The truth is, not all 1942 Lincoln wheat pennies are created equal. Some of these coins carry a combination of historical weight, minting precision, and rare errors that make them highly sought after by collectors around the globe. Let's take a step back to understand the setting. The year was 1942. The United States was deep into World War II. The economy was shifting. Industries across the nation were converting to support the war effort. And just like every other part of American life, the U.S. Mint was also impacted. Although the major change to steel pennies happened in 1943, the preparation for materials and minting strategy was already underway during 1942. The Lincoln wheat penny itself had already been circulating for over 3 decades by that time. First minted in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, this penny was the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real person. On the obverse, we see a clean and noble profile of President Lincoln. And on the reverse, the simple yet beautiful, 1-cent, lettering framed by 2 stylized wheat stalks, giving the coin its beloved nickname, the wheat penny. But here's where things get even more exciting. In 1942, the penny was still being struck with a bronze alloy, a mix of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Millions of pennies were produced that year, with mint marks from Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, marked D, and San Francisco, marked S. While these coins were used daily by Americans, buying gum, newspapers, and candy, what most people didn't realize was that some of these coins would become future treasures. You might ask, what makes a 1942 penny special enough to be worth a fortune? Well, the value of a coin like this depends on several factors: rarity, condition, mint mark, and, perhaps most intriguingly, errors. Let's talk condition. A 1942 penny that's been passed around for decades, scraped in cash registers and dropped in the dirt, won't be worth much. But if you happen to find one in pristine, uncirculated condition, with sharp details, bright luster, and barely a fingerprint on it, that alone makes it a collectible item. Mint state coins, graded MS-60 and above, are already valuable. Now consider the mint marks. Coins from Denver and San Francisco often had smaller mintages than Philadelphia, and high-grade examples from these mints are rarer. Collectors especially hunt for coins with a strong strike, clean surfaces, and perfect eye appeal, but the real showstoppers are the error coins. You see, back in the early 1940s, quality control wasn't as tight as it is today. Mistakes could happen, and they did. Some 1942 pennies have fascinating minting errors that elevate them into elite status. These include double-die obverse coins, where the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile appears slightly doubled due to misalignment during the minting process. Others may feature off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the planchet wasn't placed correctly. You might even come across a repunched mint mark, where the mint mark was stamped more than once, slightly off position. Even more rare are transitional errors, coins struck on the wrong type of metal or planchet. For instance, while 1943 pennies were famously made of steel, a few 1942 pennies might have been accidentally struck on experimental blanks or leftover foreign planchets. These mistakes, when authenticated, can skyrocket a coin's value overnight. Each of these rare variations tells a story. They're a window into the production of coins during a turbulent time in history. When collectors spot one of these rarities in high grade, certified by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC, the bidding wars can be intense. There have been recorded auction results where a simple 1942 wheat penny, under the right conditions, fetched astonishing amounts. Imagine holding a coin that passed through the hands of factory workers, soldiers, mothers, and schoolchildren, and now rests safely in a collector's cabinet, protected and preserved like a relic. So how do you know if the 1942 Lincoln wheat penny in your drawer is one of the rare ones? Start by looking at the date and mint mark. Is it sharp and clear? Check for doubling. Look closely at the edges. Is the coin centered, or is part of the design missing? Does the metal look unusual, maybe a bit silvery, or lighter than expected? Most importantly, what is the overall condition? If you think your coin could be something special, get it checked by a professional grading service. A small investment in authentication could result in a major payout, because believe it or not, one such coin, a 1942 Lincoln wheat penny with the right combination of rarity, condition, and historical appeal, once sold for an incredible $63,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $63,000 for a single copper penny. That's more than the cost of a brand new luxury car, or a down payment on a house, for something that may be sitting in a jar of spare change. So don't underestimate the value of these tiny coins. Check your collections, search through coin rolls, and don't ignore that old box of coins in your grandparents' attic. Because hidden among them might be a small piece of American history, and if you're lucky, it might also be your ticket to a fortune. Today's video might change your view forever. We're diving deep into a small, unassuming coin that's part of millions of collections, yet a rare version could make you a fortune. Yes, we're talking about the United States of America 1952 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that carries more history and value than most people could ever imagine. At first glance, the 1952 wheat penny may seem like just another old copper coin with Lincoln's face, something you'd expect to find at the bottom of a drawer or in a dusty jar full of coins. But as we've seen time and time again in the world of numismatics, it's often the smallest coins that hold the biggest surprises. Let's begin by setting the scene. It's 1952. The United States is in the midst of post-World War II growth. The country is booming, the economy is thriving, and the U.S. Mint is busy producing coins to meet demand. The penny, often overlooked, was a crucial part of everyday life. It bought you gum, candy, or even a bus fare. And among those everyday coins was the Lincoln wheat penny, a design that had already been circulating for over 4 decades by that time. Now, the wheat penny series began in 1909, celebrating the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. On the obverse, you'll find the iconic bust of Lincoln. On the reverse, 2 wheat stalks gracefully frame the words, 1 cent, and United States of America. Simple, elegant, and enduring, the 1952 wheat penny was minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, with a D mint mark; and San Francisco, with an S mint mark. All 3 mints produced large numbers of these coins, and most of them ended up in circulation. However, not all 1952 pennies are created equal, and that's what makes this story so fascinating. You see, coin collectors don't just care about how old a coin is, they care about how rare, how well preserved, and how unique it is. And that's where the true value begins to shine. Point one of the most important factors in a coin's value is its condition. A 1952 penny that's been tossed around in pockets, dropped on sidewalks, and rattled through vending machines for decades isn't going to be worth much. But a mint state coin, one that looks just as fresh as the day it was struck, can command serious attention. In particular, coins graded MS-65 and higher are especially valuable. Then there's the matter of mint marks. For example, some Denver or San Francisco mint coins might have low mintages or unusual features that make them rarer than their Philadelphia counterparts. But what really excites collectors are errors and variations, coins with flaws that occurred during the minting process. Imagine finding a 1952 wheat penny with a double die obverse, where parts of the design appear slightly doubled due to a die misalignment. Or maybe a coin with an off-center strike, where Lincoln's portrait is pushed to one side, leaving a blank crescent on the edge. These are not mistakes in the eyes of collectors, they are goldmines. You might also come across a repunched mint mark, where the D or S mint mark appears to have been stamped more than once, slightly off position. Some 1952 pennies even show planchet errors, where the coin was struck on a flawed metal blank. All of these errors create scarcity, and in the world of rare coins, scarcity equals value, but rarity and condition alone don't tell the full story. Historical context matters too. The 1950s were a transformative period in America. From the Cold War to cultural shifts, coins from this era are more than just currency, they're snapshots of American history. That emotional and historical connection adds another layer to the coin's desirability. So how do you know if your 1952 Lincoln wheat penny is the one that could make you rich? Start by taking a close look at the mint mark. Is there a D or an S under the date? Check for doubling on the date and lettering. Examine the coin's edges. Are they clean, or is part of the design off-center? Use a magnifying glass if needed, and always compare it to reference images of known varieties. If you think you might have a special one, your next step is to get it authenticated and graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. A coin in high grade, with verified rarity or mint errors, is a collector's dream, and collectors are willing to pay serious money to own a piece like that. And just how serious are we talking? Well, one extraordinary example of a 1952 Lincoln wheat penny, in stunning condition and with just the right mix of rarity and appeal, was sold at a major auction for an unbelievable $72,000. Yes. 1 penny, just 1 cent, fetched more than the average yearly salary, all because of its unique history, pristine state, and collector demand. That's the magic of coin collecting. That's why thousands of people are searching through their change jars and old collections every day, hoping to find the next treasure. So the next time you see an old wheat penny, especially from the year 1952, don't dismiss it. Take a closer look, it might just be the key to your next big payday. Who knows, that penny in your hand could be worth more than you ever imagined. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of American coinage once again, and this time, we're exploring a coin that might just be hiding in your collection, or even resting unnoticed at the bottom of an old jar. It's small, it's copper, and it's one of the most overlooked coins in circulation, but in the right condition and with the right characteristics, it can be worth a small fortune. We're talking about the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny from the United States of America, and by the end of this video, you'll see how this little coin could turn an ordinary day into a life-changing one. Let's rewind to the year 1954. The world was shifting rapidly. Television was booming, rock and roll was rising, and America was entering a time of cultural transformation. Amidst all of that, the U.S. Mint was doing its job, producing millions of pennies for everyday use. These copper coins were used to buy candy, newspapers, and more, and most people didn't give them a second thought. But not all pennies from 1954 were created equal. The Lincoln wheat penny had already been in circulation for decades by that point. First released in 1909 to commemorate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, this coin was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and what a person to start with. President Lincoln, the face of integrity and leadership, sits boldly on the obverse, while two wheat ears on the reverse give the coin its nickname, the wheat penny. The 1954 Lincoln wheat penny was minted at three primary locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, with a D, and San Francisco, with an S. While millions of these pennies were struck and entered circulation, some specific versions, especially those with mint marks and in pristine condition, have become incredibly rare and valuable. Now, what makes a coin from 1954 so special, especially when it seems like it's just another copper penny? Well, it comes down to condition, minting errors, rarity, and demand. First, let's talk about condition. Coins that have been in circulation for decades typically show heavy wear and tear. But a 1954 penny that has somehow survived the years in mint state, with all its shine, luster, and details intact, becomes a whole different story. Collectors pay top dollar for coins graded MS 65 or higher, especially those that look as though they were struck yesterday. Next, consider the mint mark. The 1954 D and 1954 S Lincoln pennies have their own unique appeal, but collectors get even more excited when these mint mark coins show die variations or errors. Imagine spotting a repunched mint mark, where the letter was struck more than once, causing a faint double image, or a double die, where the lettering or Lincoln's portrait appears slightly doubled. These errors are like treasure maps for numismatists. Even more thrilling are off-center strikes, planchet flaws, or striking defects, where the coin didn't come out perfectly during minting. What might seem like a mistake to most people is actually a goldmine in the world of rare coins. But error or not, when a coin from 1954 survives in near-perfect condition and bears a mint mark, it gains instant attention from serious collectors. They know that not many of these coins exist in high grades anymore. Most were spent, damaged, or lost. Those that remain become high-value targets for those who understand just how significant a little copper coin can be, and let's not forget the emotional and historical appeal. The 1950s were a symbol of American optimism, growth, and change. Owning a coin from that era, especially one with historical design like the Lincoln wheat, is like holding a piece of the past in your hands. So how do you know if you've got a 1954 Lincoln wheat penny that could change your life? Start by checking the mint mark just below the date. Do you see a small D or S? That's your first clue. Next, look at the coin's surface. Is it shiny? Are the fine details, like Lincoln's hair and coat, clearly visible? If so, you might be looking at a high-grade coin. And if you spot anything odd, like doubling, off-center strike, or a slightly odd font, don't dismiss it. That might be the key to unlocking its full value. If your coin seems promising, the next step is professional grading and authentication. Trusted services like PCGS or NGC can tell you exactly where your coin stands on the value scale. And trust me, you want that certificate if you're hoping to sell to a serious collector or at auction. So, what's the big number? One incredibly well-preserved 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, with a desirable mint mark and top-tier grade, was sold for an astonishing $76,000 at auction. Yes, you heard that right. One copper penny, worth more than a brand new car. More than some people make in an entire year, and all it took was the right combination of history, preservation, and collector passion. Coins like this remind us that hidden treasures don't always sparkle or shine. Sometimes they're small, brown, and hiding right in your coin jar or inherited collection. Today, we're unlocking the fascinating story behind one of the most iconic and overlooked pieces of American coinage, the 1951 Lincoln wheat penny. This small copper coin might look ordinary at first glance, but don't let its simple design fool you. Some of these coins, especially with the right mint mark and pristine condition, are turning heads in the numismatic world, and raking in some truly jaw-dropping prices. Let's travel back in time, all the way to the year 1951. The United States was in the post-World War II boom. The economy was growing, suburbs were expanding, and American life was changing fast. In the middle of this transformation, the U.S. Mint quietly continued its work, striking millions of 1-cent coins for daily transactions. These pennies were carried in pockets, handed over for candy, newspapers, soda bottles, and small treats. No one could have guessed that decades later, these humble coins would gain serious collector attention. The Lincoln wheat penny was already a classic by 1951. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person. Lincoln's portrait on the front, designed by Victor D. Brenner, became an enduring symbol of American values. On the reverse side, the iconic twin stalks of wheat represent prosperity, growth, and national strength, giving rise to its nickname, the wheat penny. Now, the 1951 edition of this coin was struck at 3 different U.S. mint facilities: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, with a D, and San Francisco, with an S. Each mint produced millions of pennies, but not all of them were flawless. Some came out with slight errors, unique characteristics, or better preservation. And those tiny differences make a huge impact when it comes to value. Let's talk mint marks first. If your 1951 penny has a small d or s just under the date, that tells you it was minted in Denver or San Francisco. Coins from these mints are often more desirable to collectors, especially if they feature minting errors or remain in top condition. These mint marks are your first clue to unlocking a coin's hidden worth, but what truly makes a 1951 Lincoln wheat penny valuable, it comes down to rarity, condition, and errors. Many of these coins were used in circulation for decades, meaning they picked up scratches, discoloration, and wear. But if your coin has been protected, kept away from the elements, and still holds its original shine and detail, especially in mint state grades like MS-64 or MS-65, then you're holding something very special. Even more exciting are the rare die errors and variety coins. Some 1951 Lincoln pennies exhibit things like double die obverse, where the date or lettering appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment during striking. Others might have off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, or even be struck on the wrong metal planchet. These unusual characteristics can send the value soaring, especially when certified by a top grading service. And speaking of grading, remember this: having your coin evaluated and graded by professionals like PCGS or NGC can make all the difference. A well-documented coin, with high-grade certification and visible mint errors, becomes highly desirable at auction houses and among collectors worldwide, but rarity and condition aren't the only factors. The historical appeal also plays a role. The 1951 Lincoln wheat penny carries with it the spirit of post-war America, a time of rebuilding, innovation, and cultural shifts. For collectors, owning this penny isn't just about copper, it's about owning a moment in American history, and let's not forget the emotional value. Maybe you inherited a box of old coins from a grandparent. Maybe you found a jar at a flea market. You never know, that one coin, long ignored, could turn out to be a miniature fortune in disguise. So here's the moment you've been waiting for. Among the rarest and most sought-after 1951 Lincoln wheat pennies, especially those in high mint state with visible mint marks and rare striking errors, one example was sold for a mind-blowing amount at auction. That single 1-cent coin fetched a jaw-dropping $75,000, yes, $75,000. For a single penny. A coin that once bought a stick of gum is now worth more than many brand-new luxury cars, and the best part? These coins are still out there, hiding in boxes, tucked away in old wallets, forgotten in piggy banks, waiting to be discovered. So, what are you waiting for? Go check your collection, scan through your coin rolls, and keep your eyes sharp. You never know when a life-changing penny might fall into your hands.